We're going to go get ahead and get started here. This is LASFS, the panel continues, and I have with me Doug Stewart, filmmaker. So thank you, Doug, for being here. You have a film, which we can see, and I'd just like you to tell me a bit about the movie.
Well, the film is called Chesley Bonestell, A Brush with the Future. It's a documentary film. It's 96 minutes long, and it took 3.5 years to make, and it chronicles the life of an amazing gentleman named Chesley Bonestell. And an awful lot of people have never heard of Chesley, but he is a lost part of the American space history program.
Yeah.
His paintings actually influenced the creation and the formation of our space program in its own way. So Chesley was quite remarkable, and I went on a hunt to find out if anybody had ever done a film about him, and I'd always thought that somebody probably did, because as a teenager I saw his paintings on science fiction magazines and books, and once you see them you kind of never really forget them. They get in your psyche. They're really something resonates, and it kind of stays there. So, and they're almost kind of haunting in their beauty in a way. But when I finally had the time to do it, I have a long career with the Academy Awards and the Emmys and the Screen Actors Guild and the American Society of Cinematographers, doing film projects for all those award shows. When I had the time to go research what the status was, just to see, surely somebody's done a film on Chesley, but no. So I began looking. I went on the internet and saw a gentleman named Ron Miller's name connected with Chesley, and books about him and a blog and all that. And Ron Miller is the probably America's foremost space artist. He's very highly acclaimed, Hugo Award-winning space artist. And I finally found out he lives on the East Coast, and I called him up and I said, "Hi, I'm Doug Stewart, and I see your name connected with Chesley Bonestell's books and blogs and all kinds of things about him. Has anybody done a film on Chesley?" And he said, "No, nobody has." Well, that's kind of a relief in its own right, because you're on the right track. But an important question in our business is anybody doing a film right now on Chesley?
Fair, that's a good point.
Yeah, because you don't really want to go down that road if somebody's already there.
Yeah.
Truly. So Ron said, "No, nobody's doing anything, and it's time somebody made a film. You should do it, and I will help you." So Ron is one of the authors of this book, which is The Art of Chesley Bonestell, and it's written in conjunction with a gentleman who's no longer with us, but very famous in Chesley's life. That's Fred Durant III, and also a wonderful gentleman named Melvin Schutz. And Melvin is a encyclopedia of all things connected with Chesley and his space art. Mm-hmm. He has a book called Chesley Bonestell, A Space Art Chronology.
Yeah.
And so I brought these two gentlemen into the project. They are co-producers of the film. They have been absolutely extraordinary.
Cool.
So they've been helpful in supplying a lot of information, facts, connections, and certainly I've relied on Melvin to make sure everything is technically, perfectly, historically accurate. And that's very important. So I'm incredibly grateful to those gentlemen.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about those two is that, as I mentioned, the film took 3.5 years to make, and I did it all by myself with the help of Ron and Melvin.
Wow.
And a whole slew of other people that I met along the way. Now, I never really met these gentlemen in person until last December. I was on some business, personal and otherwise, in Texas.
Okay.
And Melvin lives in Waco, and he is the assistant curator for the Armstrong Browning Library. And I said, "Melvin, I'm on the road, and can we get together and all that?" So I wound up actually shooting a little bonus feature on Melvin, and because I thought people would certainly like to know who he is. That was the first time I met him after 3 years.
Huh.
Now, Ron and I, that's the same story. I never met Ron Miller in person until the film premiered at the Newport Beach Film Festival
Yeah.
in May. And that was a great time. Melvin came out, and the film went on to pick up the Audience Award for the best film in the category of art, architecture, and design.
Yeah.
So
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
thank you. Well, I have these extraordinary interviews, including people who are not with us. There is great footage of Chesley Bonestell in the film
Yeah.
that's never been seen before. I was given some incredible audio tapes that provide wonderful little stories from Chesley that you won't find anywhere else.
So when you start making a documentary, do you have to go to the family estate, get their permission to make a movie about Chesley? Or
in most cases, yes. And my advice to people doing documentaries for the first time, check that out. Find out, we're in an age where you really need some legal counsel, and I have wonderful people to recommend if you need ever those kind of services. But in the case of Mr. Bonestell, he's passed, his wife's passed, his daughter passed.
Yeah.
There are no immediate family members at all.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're keeping his legacy alive. I hadn't known him by name, but I've seen movies like Destination Moon and been definitely some of my favorite artists are inspired by him. So this is something that's fascinating to me.
Well, yes. So speaking of inspiration,
yeah.
One of his most famous paintings, excuse me, is this one called "Saturn as Seen from Titan," 1944, which he painted for a series of articles a series of paintings in Life magazine, and he did wind up doing artwork for additional stories for Life magazine. The response was fantastic.
Yeah.
And this particular painting, Saturn is Seen from Titan, is known as the painting that launched 1,000 careers, because it just caught Americans in 1944. They were in World War II.
Yeah.
And everybody's spirits needed some uplift, and along came this article in Life magazine about the solar system, and wow, people just they saw that as the next frontier. So it eventually evolved into something called the Final Frontier, because it's up there and it was waiting for us to go and explore.
Yeah. So you talked to a number of different scientists, and I'm guessing in your film, I saw that you have filmmakers like Douglas Trumbull and people that I admire.
I have artists, I have astronomers, I have architects,
Yeah.
I have journalists who interviewed Chesley.
Yeah.
So there's quite an array. There are 25 different people in there.
Yeah.
3 of them are no longer with us, and that would be Ray Bradbury. He's one of them. I have some wonderful archival footage of him that was given to me through the cooperation and assistance of a gentleman named Arnold Leibovit. And Arnold has done a wonderful film called The Fantasy Film World of George Pal.
Oh, cool.
And he interviewed Ray, and we came to an agreement, and I'm really grateful to Arnold for the use of that footage.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So when putting this together, you were looking through a bunch of archives. How long did it take to, you said it's taken 3.5 years, but what's the process like of going through archives, looking for interviews, getting the rights to it, that kind of thing?
It's a long, difficult process.
Okay.
But everybody knows that. Nothing that's any good is easy to make.
Yeah.
Or do.
Yeah.
So it took quite a while to get into the Bonestell archives, which are up in Seattle. And they had not been open to the public, and there was a certain amount of time they had to know who I was and what the whole project was. But I'm very grateful to have gotten in there first and to have seen these meticulously taken care of artifacts and his books, paintings they have, and just all kinds of wonderful photographs. And it's great stuff, and that was the beginning.
Cool. Now, you do have to be very obsessive to dedicate 3.5 years of your life to creating a documentary. So, what started you with Chesley? What inspired this love and obsession to spend so much time to bring his life to us?
Well, I had a hunch there was a story there, and particularly after looking through this book, The Art of Chesley Bonestell, there really is a fascinating account of his life.
Okay.
So sure enough, there was that. Of course, a book is one thing, a film is another. They communicate completely differently. And in my work, I mentioned the shows like the Oscars and the Screen Actors Guild and whatever. I've done a lot of biographies on people, and part of the fun of this project is going and finding footage that you just, is it there? You don't know. You don't know. It's the great detective hunt to go and find really special, fabulous pieces of footage that, hopefully nobody's ever seen.
Yeah.
So, that love carried over into everything that I did, because I once did a biography of Mary Tyler Moore for the Screen Actors Guild, and I read that she used to be on the Jimmy Durante show. And there's a little account in her autobiography about going to a party and meeting. Some things led me to the Jimmy Durante show, and I never knew that Mary Tyler Moore really was a dancer with footage to show. So I did come across an old Jimmy Durante show with a group of dancers, and lo and behold, there she was.
Nice.
So that kind of thing that's the enjoyment you get
Yeah.
of finding those pieces and then also sharing it with your audience.
Cool. So what are some of the surprising things or things you've learned about Chesley Bonestell while doing this?
Well, Chesley is just a wonder in himself. He was born in 1888, and he passed away when he was 98 years old in 1986.
Wow.
So, the surprising things that you can read that he worked on projects like the Chrysler Building in New York, and there's a rendering of his that's in the book, and also we've got the original found it and got that in the film. And he worked on the Golden Gate Bridge. He created a whole series of posters for the public that showed what the bridge would look like, and also it helped the city fathers understand what the bridge was actually going to turn out looking like, because all that they had seen were blueprints and technical drawings, but Chesley had the wonderful ability to take the technical matter and turn it into art. So, and that's really the wonderful discovery that yes, he could take mathematical formulas and express them on canvas so that people could understand and appreciate them.
That's cool.
So that's wonderful. I didn't know how. I mean, Chesley is incredibly prolific. There may be something on the order of 3,000 paintings and illustrations that he did in his lifetime, and I think when this film gets out and people see it, a lot of this will surface. Now, we came across something in the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Library that, lo and behold, when the Golden Gate Bridge was about to be opened, they wanted Franklin Delano Roosevelt to open it, but he couldn't travel, and so he did things from his office. But they made a special invitation, all created by Chesley, inviting Franklin Delano Roosevelt to come and participate. So we got that, and that's great. And there's Chesley's art, right there. So that was a wonderful discovery along the way.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious, do you go into this documentary with a map of his life and things? You say it's a mystery. You're hunting for different pieces of his life. So did you have it sort of sorted already from these books that you're referencing and reading about him and go in with a plan? Or was it mostly discovery, a mixture of both? It's kind of the process.
Yeah, well, I'm deeply indebted to Ron and Melvin and the late Mr. Durant for this book, because it was the guide path for the film. And as I mentioned, that movies are different than books, and you can read about something, but if you want to see it, so the answer to your question is this was the foundation, and then to go out and find people who
Yeah.
could speak about it. Okay,
Yeah.
or my wonderful associate producer Christopher Darren came across a woman who interviewed Chesley
Yeah.
in the latter part of his life up in Carmel.
Nice.
So yeah, let's go see if we can talk to her.
Yeah.
You know, and that's and everybody's got schedules, everybody's busy,
Yeah.
everybody has reservations, everybody, you know, everybody that's in the film really has a tremendous love for Chesley, and in some way his work or his personality, there are people that knew Chesley
Yeah.
in the film, were touched by him, and they share that love and their enthusiasm for him and his work in the film.
That's cool. Did you book people and go film them, or it's mostly interviews that had happened that you're discovering and learning about? Or a mixture of both?
No, most of there is, I would say a good 75% of the film that's in there is fresh original interviews.
Cool.
So I went to visit Douglas Trumbull, who
Yeah.
worked on 2001. He has a wonderful
He's a great
story.
director himself. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the special photographic supervisor for the film. And there's a tremendous story that he tells in the film, complete with pictures and all that,
Cool.
about Stanley Kubrick's obsession with creating a lunar surface
Yeah.
that looks like Chesley Bonnet did it. And so that's a wonderful, it's priceless, and it was worth all the effort to get out there
Yeah.
and meet Mr. Trumbull. I'm really grateful for him, and he provides other perspectives
Right.
on Chesley throughout the film.
Yeah, he's an amazing technician, director, special effects guy. So, yeah, what was it like booking these people? How long do you have to pursue someone to
Yeah,
get
I love
interviews
that.
like that?
I love that term booking, because in the entertainment industry it means, oh, you just call their
Yeah, you book
agent or their
them.
manager and they're talking, okay, they're on.
Yeah.
No, this takes quite a bit of time and persistence. Almost nobody knew who I was,
Yeah,
and I'm just very fortunate that people said yes, and it was worth all the effort. And
yeah,
there's a wonderful woman named Irene Edwards. She's the editor-in-chief of Sunset Magazine, where Chesley did early illustrations in his career
yeah.
when he was 16 years old, and I have a wonderful interview with her. She has a great part in the film.
Cool. So you said Chesley was so prolific. When did he start? When did he have some successes in life and that kind of thing?
He started as a kid
Yeah.
drawing, and he never stopped.
Yeah.
He never stopped. And his grandfather ran a paper business, wholesale
cool.
paper business
Yeah.
in San Francisco, and one of his clients was Sunset Magazine.
Cool.
So he wound up over there making little things, little drawings that wound up in Sunset,
Yeah.
and called tail
Nice.
pieces, and they're little illustrations at the end of a story,
Yeah.
which he did. And then there are other people, and then he did leave Sunset, but later on there are color paintings that he did later in his career,
Yeah.
the time after he left Sunset Magazine. So
Yeah. Did his parents have any artistic inclinations, or did they support him?
from what I can tell, and there's not too much about his father that I could come up with. His grandfather was as I mentioned, a well-to-do paper wholesaler in San Francisco, and he provided the financial resources for Chesley's career, and he actually sent Chesley to Columbia University in New York.
Cool.
So, but no, by all accounts, the grandfather was not in favor of his being an artist, encouraged him to be an architect, which he started to do at Columbia. He didn't make it all the way through, but it was the earthquake in San Francisco, the 1906 earthquake, that brought Chesley back to San Francisco to work with an architect named Willis Polk. And Willis Polk is known as the man who rebuilt San Francisco, and Chesley was definitely a part of that.
Did Chesley ever branch out from science fiction and do other types, or these astronomical images that he's so famous for? Did he
Yeah, he didn't start doing those astronomical paintings until later
Okay.
in his career.
Yeah.
But he does. Yes, he has other. There's I've seen photographs of them, but he has a wonderful knack for Chinese Oriental-looking
Mm-hmm.
paintings. He's also got landscapes that he did.
Cool.
He did a whole series of paintings on the California missions. He painted every one of them for a special book. Again, this was in the last part of his life, after his whole outer space and space exploration career.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're beautiful. And as a matter of fact, those paintings, when I couldn't find there, you'll see them in the film. I have a couple of them. They're
Mm-hmm.
close to 20 that he painted. Although the exact number and where the paintings were was a mystery when I finished the film. But out of the blue, a gentleman surfaced who owns them, and he is having them restored. His name is Brad Paul, up in San Francisco, and he has donated them to the California Historical Society, and they will be part of their new building, the San Francisco Mint, that they will be taking over.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. So going back to the people that you interviewed, I'm curious how you kind of get the story that you're trying to tell about Chesley while interviewing different people and not really knowing what they're going to say. Did you have interviews that you had to like throw away, or did it work with the narrative of your film?
There was a wealth of riches, let's put it that way.
Oh, good.
And I have made bonus features for the hope for DVD release.
Yeah.
So that, and a number of them are extra things that we couldn't put in the film.
Yeah.
The film it can't go on forever, and
Right.
as I mentioned, it's 96 minutes long. So some of the wonderful pieces that didn't make the film are in the bonus features.
Okay.
And they provide a different perspective, and they're interesting.
Yeah.
They're really great.
So what are some of the surprising things you found from other people's input on Chesley?
Well, one of my favorite stories is, and there are two of them because they're really great.
Cool.
You're talking about the bonus features,
Yeah.
right? Well, in the film, an asteroid was named for Chesley.
Cool.
And it's called Bonestell 3129. And actually, it's probably 3129 Bonestell if you were going to be cosmically correct.
Okay.
And at the time, I went to NASA and I said, "Do you have a photograph of this asteroid?" And they looked, and now I got a lot of technical charts and drawings and light. It's the amount of light that comes back from the asteroid. The asteroid goes around the sun part of the year, so it's not there.
Yeah.
So there were arrangements made to see if it could be photographed from Lick Observatory. Now, Lick is where Chesley first looked through a telescope and saw Saturn.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's a great history attached to that observatory.
That's really great.
So I said, well, that's terrific. However, it never happened in time for me to make it to the film because there were fires, big rainstorms, floods washed out the roads, and the things behind the sun for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So it never worked out. But last December, I got an email, and again, the film's finished, that said, "Oh, have a look at this," and there's a YouTube link that was given to me, and a wonderful astronomer named Dr. Eleanor Gates actually photographed a sort of step action process of photographing the asteroid as it moved through the night sky, and I was astounded. This was just fabulous. So I got in touch with her, and she's allowed me to go and film, and there's a wonderful 5-minute segment on how she did that.
Oh, awesome.
In the very observatory where Chesley began his
Nice.
whole inspired career of painting celestial objects.
Yeah, so did he, I mean, they look accurate. That looks like Saturn. Did he reference actual astronomical images when creating his paintings? Was it this scientifically accurate, or was this from his imagination, a combination of both?
It's a little bit of everything plus the ability to foresee the future.
Cool.
He did use the best technology and scientific evidence that was there at the time. There were not gigantic telescopes. There was nothing there's no Hubble telescope at the time.
Yeah.
No spacecraft that could go out and take photographs of the planets in the solar system. None of that was available. And the amazing thing is how accurate Chesley turned out to be.
Cool.
So, how did he do it? Well, he used research. He talked to astronomers, but he had that secret Monastellian sauce in him that allowed him to visualize. Now, there's an amazing story in the film where Chesley has two paintings that he painted of Pluto. Now, these are long before the New Horizons spacecraft that went by it 2 years ago.
Cool.
It's astounding. He got the colors right. He got the ice fields. He got everything right.
Wow.
What you see in the film is all that Chesley had to work with, which was a little white dot on a photograph of other white dots. That's all Pluto was at the time of its discovery. And so, it's amazing. And I have David Aguilar, who is on the Science Channel and is also an artist and knew Chesley. And he was on the New Horizons research team. And so he tells that story, and it's incredible.
That is incredible. So I just wanted to ask, it's a brush with the future. It seems very clear and obvious. He's a painter and painted the future, but why did you decide on that title?
Well, I thought because it had two possible meanings.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a brush as in coming into contact with the future, and also his own paintbrush with which he painted all the visions that he created.
Okay, that makes sense.
I thought it was clever, and if you think about it, it's one of those titles. Oh, if you don't get it the first time, you'll get it.
I mean, it definitely fits. So cool. What are some of your other favorite stories that you found?
Well, okay. Well,
I'm sure there's a wealth of them.
Well, there's an artist named Don Davis that's in the film, and Don is a very well-known space artist in his own right. And one of the amazing discoveries was that he was mentored by Chesley. When he was 13 years old, he already knew about Chesley because his mother gave him the Time-like books.
Yeah.
The world we live in.
Cool.
And those are awfully dramatic works still, even today, just to look at those paintings. So, but turns out he found out he lived near Chesley more or less. He lived in Menlo Park, and Chesley was over in Berkeley. So he got some of his paintings together, and I guess he got on a bus and went over and met Chesley.
Nice.
And Chesley looked at his work and looked at it very seriously and gave him some suggestions, and that was the forging of a collaborative friendship that continued for a long time. So that was a wonderful discovery to make.
Yeah. Did he collaborate often? Chesley?
No, and that's one of the really, to the best of my knowledge and research, Don Davis is the only mentee or whatever student, if you will, that Chesley ever had.
Cool.
Chesley was kind of at times curmudgeonly and irascible, and had kind of a very dark sense of humor. So I don't know that people really, fellow artists, would really want to subject themselves to his scrutiny.
Did Chesley ever come to LASFS?
Not that I'm aware.
Ah, too bad. We've been around that long. But anyway, I think some people have some questions. I want to give a little bit more time for questions because I know there are so many people interested in his work. So anyone have any questions?
Well, I will say it's refreshing to find people who know about Chesley.
Yeah.
The film is for those people who know who Chesley is. and I've had a lot of people thank me for making the film before they've even seen it, and then thank me after they've seen it, because there are things about Chesley that they never knew and they learned before. But the most important thing is this is a film for people who don't know who Chesley Bonestell is. We have hands there. Do you want to pick one?
Yeah, George.
Oh, that guy, which kind of segues into my question. Okay, I'm sold. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what venues is this going to be available? One of the streaming services, one of the cable services? Is it going to be available on DVD? Or even
How can we see
purchase
the
as a
movie?
digital, purchase as a digital file?
How
Off of,
long
say,
has this
Amazon,
been? How long has this been out, and is there a plan for distribution?
You know,
Yes to all that.
Yeah.
where
Okay.
can I see it?
Okay, at the moment, you can't really see it, except I do have some screenings coming up. There's one, again, I'm not quite sure when this broadcast will be going on, but there's one November 3rd out at UC Riverside, and then also one on October 26th in Waco, Texas. There are others that are in the works. It will be in San Francisco on January 10th at the public library there. I am in search of the right distributor for the film. I think it needs to be out in a theater first. What filmmaker wouldn't want their film in a theater with a big marquee?
So
Yeah.
I'm on your email list. Can you then send me an announcement for the UC?
Absolutely.
Riverside?
You'll get our newsletter, and that has all the screenings in it and where and when they're happening. I had some really great things coming up that if I talk about them, they'll probably go away. But if I don't talk about them, they'll stick. But I hear you, and I really want to get this out available, to answer your question, in all formats, so that it's available for people to see no matter what.
Thank you.
Yes, Francis.
Talk to me afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. So,
That's a good question.
yeah, great question.
Thank you,
Yes,
Francis.
Nick.
The film highlighted some of his early work in the movie industry, and I was wondering how much you were able to find out about his early movie work.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Movie work.
okay, Chesley did go to Hollywood after working on the Golden Gate Bridge. He came down to work for the studios as a special effects matte painter.
Cool.
To answer your question, I found more material than I could put in the film. I have a wonderful gentleman, an Oscar-winning special effects supervisor named Craig Barron, who has a section in the film showing Chesley's work, and it also acquaints the audience, for those who don't know, what a matte painting is and how it works. And I have an example later on in the film from an exhibition of his, from the Bonestell archives, that includes a surviving matte painting from Destination Moon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, it's a little bit of a technical challenge for those that are not into the techniques of filmmaking, but the goal was how to effectively convey what a matte painting is to people, because matte paintings are supposed to be seamless and invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And at times Chesley did that quite remarkably. Now, you had asked about what kind of discoveries were exciting. Well, the fact that he painted the Xanadu Castle in Citizen Kane, one of the greatest picture ever made.
Huh.
Oh my gosh. Or one of my favorites, the Fountainhead. He has a lot of things, in there. And also he was a part of the RKO picture, The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then also he did another Orson Welles picture called The Magnificent Ambersons.
Oh, right.
And I found a rendering that he did that was on the wall in a photograph that Orson Welles is standing in.
Yeah.
So that just makes me
Yeah,
so
that's
excited. Here's this photograph of Orson Welles and all these, they're like little sketches, they're set sketches and whatever, and lo and behold, there's Chesley, and I've got the other one right in my hand. That's fantastic. So you will see that.
Yeah, that's very cool
Yeah.
to include those in. Did he enjoy his time in the movie industry more than, say, doing covers for magazines and?
Well, he became one of the highest paid matte painters in Hollywood.
Sounds like a good time.
Chesley, it's hard to tell what he liked, but I think he just loved painting
Yeah.
and illustrating and did that constantly. So, but I know you'll hear Craig Barron talk about how Chesley was not happy at the end, and also Don Davis talks about his unhappiness with things that were done on movies that he was involved with. But you know, the wonderful thing about what Chesley did is that you can see it, you can go experience it for yourself today.
Yeah.
So his movies last on, particularly, you know, Destination Moon, which you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a real game changer for people who've seen that film, particularly if you were growing up when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's a great movie.
yeah.
Did we have any more questions? Just want to make sure we have time for them if we do. Well, I guess not. So, then were there any tricks in making the documentary? Any like stumbles or pitfalls?
Tricks or trips or both?
Tricks? How do you? Yeah, tricks. Things you've learned and things that have tripped you up.
Well, every film of this nature goes through. There are just times when you run into catastrophe, and there isn't too much you can do it. So I did go to San Francisco to shoot an architectural historian in the film. Her name is Christina Dykes, and she works for Page and Turnbull, and they actually restored one of the buildings that Chesley worked on in San Francisco.
Yeah.
She's great. She tells the history of Chesley's architectural experiences in San Francisco. So I thought, because we could shoot in the offices of Page and Turnbull, that, well, let's do it on a Saturday when it's quiet. Nobody's in the office, and you know, the city's all wound down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got there, and I mean, you can already tell from my expression, things were going great right up to, oh, wait a minute, what is that noise? And it turns out that happened to be the day that they were, not just one, but two generators, rooftop generators, air conditioning, I don't know what they were, but they were running these things, and they just made an incredible racket. We couldn't shoot for 2 hours. And finally, so finally it stopped, and I got most of what I wanted to shoot on camera done. But then another thing started up, and it's like, you can't use this. So we went into their library to shoot. Yeah. And the background didn't match and all that stuff, but I used the sound from it. You will never know, but those kind of events happen. We were shooting a space artist named Lynette Cook in San Francisco at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific building. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, everything's going right in the middle of you, boom, the power goes out. And I thought,
holy cow!
Oh boy, I thought we did it because when you have all this filming equipment with lights, it's you know, those kind of things happen. But it turned out the entire city block, it was a city problem, not something we created.
I'd assume it was the film too, but that's good. It's not yours. So yeah, any tricks that you've learned about making documentaries?
Well, the real important thing for documentarians and for those of you who are going to go out and make a film is you can't give up. You just have to keep going, and you will get setbacks. There will be dark days, and you just have to. It's like the success of any project. You have to keep moving forward. You just can't stop. So one of the tricks is to overcome your own reservations, concerns, blue feelings, all of that. Yeah. You have to just keep at it, and it'll be worth the reward. You can't let any obstacle get in your way. You grow so much as an individual, because when you take on a project independently, you're entirely responsible for everything. You can't blame anybody else for, well, I don't have the money, or I didn't get the interview I wanted, or, you know, I couldn't go to that location because it's too far. It's all on you. Yeah. And so there is this tremendous growth process that happens personally, that it's one of the unpaid benefits, if you will. Yeah. You are given something that will change you really forever, because you recognize, well, I remember when I was back there and I didn't want to do that, or I couldn't do that, or I thought it was impossible, but lo and behold, I found a way to do it.
That's cool. That's great advice for almost any artist, but
Please, we need
definitely
we need
people in
art
film.
more than ever. You
Yeah.
know, space art, any kind of art, and it's so important that artists use these wonderful God-given talents that they're given
Mhm.
and use them so that people can share in the joy and the vision of what they have.
Absolutely. Just seeing how we are on time. We have about 5 more minutes, so did we have any last questions?
Well, okay, please.
What are in particular your favorite Bonestell artworks? Personally, if you don't mind my asking.
Oh, I don't mind. I mentioned the. Well, I wish I had slides that I can show you real quick if I was very dexterous with this book, but certainly Saturn is seen from Titan, and that's the poster of the film. Really, I've got 2 posters. This is what it's based on, and again, these are used with permission from Bonestell LLC. They own the copyrights to them. That one, there's a painting of Mars that he did where you can see the water canals, and all of his,
Cool.
even the one that's on the cover here, what you'll learn in the film is how to look at a Chesley Bonestell painting, and he uses, you can't see them here, but they're these teeny tiny little astronauts, cosmonauts, space nauts,
Yeah.
space explorers there, and they're one of the goals of this film was how to effectively convey this feeling. People have written about it, that Chesley has a connection with the Hudson River School of Painting, which was in the late 1800s, and you'll see Hudson River paintings, and well, it's a side story. I'll tell you it in a second, but there is a comparison that shows little tiny men in those early American paintings, and then what Chesley did with this in the same kind of thought. So, but the challenge was, okay, I don't want to bore people with art history, but this is important how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was, you have to just be resourceful. You have to pray for things. And one day I opened up an Architectural Digest magazine, and I was just, how can I get this Hudson River concept into the film and make it work? And lo and behold, there's a full-page ad for a company called Quest Royal Fine Art in Manhattan, and that's all they sell are Hudson River School paintings.
Cool.
So I called up the owner, and I said, here's who I am. We don't know each other, but he was very, he said, he's in the film. He agreed to appear and talk
that's
about.
awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
And his son
I
is
love
actually
how
one of
that
the
works out.
cinematographers, turns out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're in Manhattan, they're in New York, yes. Okay, sir.
Yes,
Not a
George?
question, a comment. I was looking at that, Saturn Rise over Titan,
Yeah.
and wondering, why does this look so familiar? And then I realized, an artist named Vincent de Fate
Mm-hmm.
did a very similar image as a cover in the cover story in the analog in the 1990s, a story by Poul Anderson. And there's a movie that I see when I'm thinking on one of the streaming services that again, the image uses a very similar image in their, when they're,
Well, that's a very powerful painting, and that is the one that, again,
Well, evidently it kind of, you might say it resonated through the ages.
and it actually it's hanging on the wall in The Martian, the movie The Martian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Francis?
What was your budget on this?
Ah,
You have to get that question. But
I'll say this: I haven't been paid a dime. It hasn't made it's not anywhere near anything where I can say, oh, I made money. It's a long ways off.
well,
It's a long ways off. So
closer now that it's finished.
yeah. So
You could
you
get it
got to
picked up
have
at
credit
any time.
cards. You have to have friends.
No, that wasn't the question.
No, I know what.
That's okay. Yeah, we don't need to go into it, Francis.
Well, no. I'll just say I can't disclose that at the moment because I need that information withheld pending a distribution deal.
Ah.
Okay. So,
Well,
but
you
it looks. I've had somebody say to me, "It looks like you spent $1 million on that film."
Great.
It does look great. It looks fantastic.
Okay, well, did we have any other questions? If not, we have his mailing list. Sign up in the back there, and you have some of these postcards to give
Right.
around.
I
So
do,
if you want updates on how to watch the movie, sign up for his mailing list, and you'll get updates.
And for those watching the webcast, it's my
Yep.
website is chesleybonistel.com, and please go to it. And there are all kinds of wonderful articles and factoids and things you can sign up for, and all kinds of great information. And there's a promo you can see on it, and it's under the trailer tab. So anyway, Chris, it's an
Perfect.
honor and a pleasure to be here in this
Yeah.
distinguished company here, and I thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.